Welcome to today's session, SaaS at Scale, How Best to Breed Tools Drive Employee Focus and Productivity. I'm Matt Egan, Director of Tech Strategy in our Corporate Development Department, and I can't lie here. I am super excited about today's session. Prior to joining Okta 4 years ago, I was a customer of Okta's and many other SaaS applications, and I can't tell you, how many times I sat down and wondered, am I getting the value out of these applications? Are all of our employees actually using these applications? So I'm very pleased to be joined today, first by Jody Shapiro, CEO of Productiv, who has built an amazing tool to help solve some of these problems. We're joined by Sylvie Veilleux, CIO at Dropbox, who is 4 years further down the journey of managing SaaS applications at scale, and she's got some amazing insights to share with us today. Jody, go ahead and take it away.
Thanks, Matt. I'm super excited to be here with both of you, Dropbox and Okta, two phenomenal companies, partners and customers both. And I really love this theme of Octane just around Unite and how that impacts all of us. So, Sylvie, let me hand it to you.
Thank you, Jody. I'm also excited to be here, and thank you to Okta and Productiv for inviting me. This year's Octane theme about forging and deepening our connections in this environment really resonates with me. And it's something that we're focused on at Dropbox too. And with a year like 2020 full of challenges for everyone, I've been impressed on how quickly we've all adapted to address our customer needs. Jody and Matt, I think our companies play key roles in managing the shift to distributed work, along with the IT orgs of every company out there. There's so many opportunities to tackle, and I'm so excited to dive deeper into some of these with you guys today.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, the CIO, the role of the CIO has changed a lot over the past 10 years. And, Sylvia, I find it fascinating that you were the first CIO hired in 27 ever at Dropbox, a company founded 10 years prior in 2007. What caused that decision? And how do you see the role of the CIO evolving?
Thanks. For those CIOs out there that have been the first of a company, you all know what wonderful work you have to do. I came to join Dropbox in 2017 to build the world-class IT organization and the very first centralized IT team. And basically, I led the charge in enabling the technology and the structure around it for Dropbox's IPO and its growth beyond. And needless to say, there was a lot to do leading up to the IPO, and it included building out modern business technology and information technology. And it really ran the gamut from ERP to put in place, a new data and analytics set of platforms, holistic set of capabilities powering our SaaS, our sales and marketing, to creating a sound practice to govern our technology and processes. And in addition, building a team to scale quickly. And to do that, I hired a really great leadership team and talent. And I went with some partners where it made sense. And if you fast forward to today, it's a much different world in the tech and the tools that we need in this environment. And they have shifted greatly. And to answer your question on how the CIO role is evolving, I see the role as becoming more and more strategic to the business across every industry. I think the CIO organization has to be a strategic partner to the business. And I like to also be called like that connective tissue, and the connective tissue to all these functions that you work with, because you have the unique view of a company and you work with the product to sales to marketing, HR, finance, legal, real estate, name it, right? So a successful team needs to be very strategic in how they deliver across these functions, and they really need to get ahead of the business. And to me, the way you do this is through best of breed technologies, and they come in form of SaaS.
Yeah, I mean, just the numbers we're looking at here. I mean, it's a good size organization, 2,700 people. We'll talk more hopefully in a few minutes, but just your footprint of SaaS. We talk about SaaS at scale with the more than 500 applications that you guys are using. So just building off that, what do you see as your biggest priorities as a CIO?
Well, as I mentioned, 2020 was a challenging year for everyone. And for CIOs, it was a unique opportunity to shift the global workforce from an all office environment to completely remote overnight. And we had to do this and evolve the way we work and the way we collaborate, how we support the business, how we secure environment. For some, it was really complicated. For some, it was easier, but we all had to do this. And there's several functions or focus areas for my team this year, and they're all connected to our company's strategy. And just to touch on a few of them, in October last year, Dropbox announced its long-term remote strategy, and we're calling it virtual first. And it's a huge priority of ours. I encourage for those who haven't heard about it to Google Dropbox Virtual First Toolkit. It has a lot of great tips for remote work. Remote work is the primary experience for Dropboxers, and that means solo work will happen at home. And in 2021, this year, we're going to continue to deliver new technologies and tools for all Dropboxers and our customers too through our products. But our goal is ultimately to allow people to do their best work, stay engaged and connected, including converting our existing office footprint to Dropbox Studios. So we believe that in-person collaboration is critical for building relationships and healthy teams and maintaining company culture. But we also believe going virtual first gives our team increased flexibility in how they work and live, like through collaboration hours or nonlinear work days. And it also allows us to have access to a broader talent pool that was previously out of reach. Another initiative that I'm pretty proud of, and I'm sure many of you out there have this, I know Okta has this, is Dropbox on Dropbox. And there's several objectives under that, but we're really getting Dropboxers to use Dropbox the way our customers experience it and creating the feedback loops internally to influence our product roadmap and provide the point of view from an IT decision maker perspective. And then, I wouldn't be fair here if I didn't call out managing risk. And I know that all CIOs out there know that risk doesn't stagnate. It's always a big part of your role. And I would be remiss to not call out the work we're doing with Okta and Productiv and leveraging the capabilities they bring together to increase our technology engagement and value and reducing our security risks.
I love it. And you've mentioned just how much of the investment you've been putting into the Dropbox on Dropbox initiatives, and just those core themes you're talking about in terms of productivity and no matter where people are working. We do run Productiv and Productiv, and I used to be at Google for many years on the Google Analytics team, and we ran Google Analytics on Google Analytics. I think it's just the best ways to really understand products and the value that they're delivering to your customers, and be able to live that live that day in the life of your customers on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
So you coined I think a really interesting and an incredibly insightful term, SaaS at scale. And it'd be great to just hear some more of your thoughts around this. Point of reference, at Productiv, everybody has massive SaaS portfolios. They're growing. Pretty typically, we see quite a few hundred SaaS applications at each of our customers. And that includes both the IT managed applications, as well as a significant and growing percentage that's being purchased outside of IT, in the business units, whether it's on a purchase order, whether it's on a credit card, or even the free products. And I know Dropbox, you've got a larger employee population, you've got more applications than we do, more than many customers even do. Curious, just your unique perspective on how to rethink about SaaS, at scale, when you do start talking about these hundreds and hundreds of applications.
Yeah, managing SaaS at scale is definitely an interesting problem and opportunity at the same time, because you're benefiting from all this SaaS technology to advance your business, but managing them is a whole other gamut of responsibilities. And to be able to do this, you need to have the right tool set that allows you to get the most out of your investments and also govern your landscape to manage risk. And you want to also manage a healthy business and technology architecture or set of capabilities. And these tools usually have come as one-off tools for these one-off set of applications. And that doesn't scale very well. So you need technology that can be very hybrid across all the different SaaS tools. And Okta and Productiv are part of that toolkit necessary to do this really well.
Well, that's very kind of you to say, and I couldn't agree more. We actually see that the average usage rate across SaaS applications is about 40% in our customers. There's definitely opportunities to grow that. There's a lot that goes into consideration of what software should we have? We're buying software, buying the right number of licenses, the right mix of licenses, thinking about all those various applications. And it just kind of ties back into everything you were talking about a moment ago in terms of, do I have the data? Do I have the visibility into all of this?
Mhm.
So switching gears a bit, we can't really talk about SaaS without just acknowledging how things have changed in the last year. You made mention of that a few moments back, but I'd love for you to expand a little bit more on it.
Yeah, we've seen a massive increase in long-term remote work, right, as the first part of it. And if there's one thing we've all realized, all of us, including the CIOs out here in the audience, is that people can still be productive while working from home. And we've seen the lines between work and life blur quite a bit, and technology just hasn't caught up. There's a big opportunity to address how we make remote work collaboration better, in addition to the need for managing SaaS in new ways. I think for Dropbox, we believe going virtual first will help us build a stronger products for our customers too.
And let's double click into that a little bit. Gartner's outlining SaaS spend is only going to continue to increase. I'm sure this is something that not just you see, but even just among your peers in the industry, all the other CIOs that I know you talk regularly with. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, I think best of breed SaaS really can increase your operational efficiency and help employees be more productive and accelerate your ability to execute on any of your company's strategy and objectives. And you can achieve this much faster return on investment or return on value through SaaS. So that's the first part of it. And at Dropbox, many of our mission critical apps are SaaS applications, right? We're a digital first company, and without SaaS, we wouldn't be able to run the business as efficiently as it has been. And just to name a few of those apps like Zoom, Slack, Salesforce, Snowflake, ServiceNow, they're just a couple example of them. And there's a reason, right? Why we see these SaaS solutions increasing. It brings value faster and mostly at a lower cost to deploy and manage than if you build it yourself. And however, when it's not well governed, not only can it become a sprawl. I had this blog I wrote up, I think like 10 years ago, if it wasn't more than that, I called We're Not in Kansas Anymore. We're talking about the SaaS sprawl, but it can become a big risk for the company. Yeah, Google, like, we're not in Kansas anymore from me. It can come a big risk for the company and a driver for productivity challenges too. And with tools like Okta and Productiv, I can quickly identify investments of low value and engagement and catch anything that may have fallen through the cracks, if there are cracks. On your software spend point, though, I focused on a Gartner benchmark that is for software publishing and internet services industry in that 1 billion to 10 billion revenue segment. And their data indicates that in 2020, 17% of the IT budget was on SaaS and 13% was on-prem software. And in 2019, that was 11 and 15% respectively. So you can definitely see year over year, this continues to increase, and we're not out of Kansas, right? This is going to continue to grow.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that we've seen as well. There's a survey we ran last year, last fall, amongst all these CIOs and VP of ITs, just all these various IT executives, and I thought the numbers were pretty interesting, and both the aspect of 61% of these organizations having more than 100 SaaS applications, and I'll still qualify that with, you kind of alluded to this a moment ago with the cracks of, like, that I know of. And
Mhm.
just with the distributed aspect of everybody in the company becoming a buyer, people having a larger and larger voice in the software that they want to use, the things that they want to try, the things they want to bring in. Um, it's always, and we see this every single day in our customer base.
Yeah.
There's always more applications than are realized, and often a lot of energy is just going into trying to discover all of them and bring it all under one roof. So you've got, as you said, that visibility, you can see all this stuff. You can understand, like, where are we spending money, and are we getting, value from all of this? Um,
Mhm.
and just to kind of keep going with that theme, this is a nonstop question, right? It is an aspect we see just IT leaders wrestling with this aspect of managing SaaS like every single day. And I really love the approach that you've taken to things. I think very, very strategic, very thoughtful about it. What do you see as the biggest challenges around managing these hundreds of apps, this SaaS literally at scale?
Yeah, I think there's like three pillars that I bucket this into. And the first is risk and security. And with the increase of number of SaaS tools or solutions you have out there, you need a holistic approach to do this. You can't do this as a one off or ad hocly. Manageability and administration, something from employee and onboarding and offboarding all the way through contract renewals. That also needs to scale along with your SaaS landscape. And then on the employee productivity side, you need to be able to answer questions like, are employees actually using the tools we gave them? Are we getting the value from our investments? And before now, like we didn't have the technology to do this in a simple way, and it was very complicated to do so for a handful. So I would say those are the three big categories.
Let's unpack that because each of these three are pretty significant, pretty interesting. You mentioned risk. So companies have hundreds of applications. We all know the big ones, right? We know from a standpoint of, yes, G Suite was purchased, Okta was purchased, Salesforce was purchased, but also now we've got these hundreds of applications because everyone is buying everything. How do you manage all of this, from the cost risks to the data risks to the security risks?
Yeah, well, SSO helps manage risk, right? It has been key for us and probably why we're here at Octane right now talking together. We have established some very high SaaS security standards as a bar for entry. And as an example, for the first bar of entry, if it can't be SSO, it's not coming in, right? That's basic minimum standards. We've also established a very robust third party risk management review process, which really starts with an enterprise architecture solution review. And it covers also the security and the privacy and other contract risks. And all of this is tailored based on the level of criticality or sensitivity of the data that lives or passes through the SaaS. So we've created an enterprise capability mapping too, and for all of our technology, so we can actually map its defined business capabilities, and rapidly identify similar solutions if one exists in the environment for that. And we use Linux. An example: if solution request comes in and we have a similar capability, then we'll offer that based on its engagement data. We can actually prove data and show how it's being used across the company as one of those best of breed tools.
Yeah, and this is also one of those perfect areas where Matt was referring to earlier, where just the the breadth of coverage that Okta has across all these various applications. And Sylvie, to your point, it's kind of be able to merge it all together and figure out what is the landscape of all the stuff that we've got. I want to be able to make good decisions about that, but for things that for things that are going to be deployed at Dropbox, let's make sure all of them are behind Okta, and just being able
Mhm.
to be able to tackle that in a more strategic and a more process oriented way, because otherwise it just turns into the wild west that it'll organically turn into, as we all know.
Yeah.
Um,
Imagine deprovisioning when you're not SSO. It's just not scalable.
yeah, yeah. Well, and I love how you said it that way, right? Because it otherwise just turns into all the things that you want your team working on. They're spending now a lot of energies just trying to keep up with examples exactly like that.
Yeah.
So let's actually double click there. I mean, you mentioned manageability, this administrative aspect. Can you talk a bit more about that?
Yeah. When you mention 185 apps is the average across industries, in tech, that number is much higher. I guess in tech, we're buying more SaaS, maybe more open to that technology because we're actually building it ourselves. But one of the important parts of this is having a way to track and oversee all of your applications. And with hundreds of applications, you need some way to govern them. So you also need the ability to detect if some SaaS is being introduced to your environment and being able to respond to it. And for that, what I mean, yeah, many CIOs have to work with some form of shadow IT. I tend to call them my extension of R&D. So I embrace them and leverage this. But assuming you don't have any of that, or your shadow IT is working in harmony with your IT organization, assuming all the processes to onboard a new SaaS are followed, I do believe because more and more SaaS is business friendly, you can find ways for these tools to be business managed versus IT managed. And for us, we did establish some SaaS management framework that sets principles around ownership and what does it mean to own some SaaS technology and the manageability around it, and laid out expected responsibilities and lifecycle management. We created a simple 2 by 2 so people can easily access it and they know what they need to do. And I just love 2 by 2s. But the decision on who is managing it is really based off how broad the technology is used across the company, how critical the business application is to its business processes, and how sensitive the data is. And when any of these are broad or high, IT owns and manages the SaaS. Otherwise, it can be managed by the business.
Who doesn't love a good 2 by 2, right? Super
Yeah.
helpful. Um, so I'm going to save the best for last here. And you talked about employee productivity. I mentioned this stat earlier. Just so many applications out there. Um, this is far beyond just like licenses provision, but actually getting to the question of like, are people using them? 47% as the stat. There's so much opportunity in terms of the applications, how they're being used, who they're being used with, to kind of get this larger question of, we're thinking about the employee experience. And again, I know you've thought a lot about this aspect, the employee productivity. How does your role play into that? How does all these SaaS applications themselves play a factor in the productivity question?
Yeah. It is a problem when multiple tools are doing the same thing, or when employees need to navigate between too many solutions to do their job. Let's just be clear, right? That becomes an issue. And this fragmentation really creates interruptions in people's workflows, and it impacts people's focus. In our Dropbox, we call this work about work. And like within our product, our IT organization really want to reduce the interruptions that we create, and create greater flow and focus for our employees. We have hundreds of apps, and not all of them are being used the way we would like them to be used. And with the insights we get through Okta and Productiv, we can identify how people engage with the technology so we can optimize the way they use it. So, in some cases, we can compare engagement between tools and how different teams are using them, similar types of tools or different tools, but related or collaborative to each other. But we help teams work more closely together, and they also feel more focused and productive as a result. It's interesting, the first time and every other time that I've done this, it's always a great conversation when I show a productive set of insights to a business partner of mine. And they see for the first time all the tools their teams are using. And the conversation goes into ways how we increase their productivity, but also, as a business unit owner, improve their operational efficiencies, AKA their spend. Before Productive, this was impossible or very, very hard to do. It required you to either build a custom set of analytics, and you could do that just so far for some apps, the ones you really want to prioritize, not all of it. So this has made it much more easy for me to do this. I love those conversations.
Yeah, they're spot on. I mean, it's just super exciting times, um, and I imagine there's plenty to keep you up at night, but also ideas on these conversations. And I am curious, like, how do you manage all of this? I come from a measurement and data background. I mentioned all my years at Google Analytics. I'm very curious. How are you tackling it?
Yeah, I think I've bucketed this in about four areas that I like to measure. And first and foremost is to be able to measure what you have. So that's the first thing I did when I joined Dropbox, 4 years ago, is to really understand the inventory of the business capabilities and the technologies I had, knowing what they are, how, what categories they're in, and which type of business unit is using it. The other part was measuring the gaps and the overlaps. And this is where you look at tools like Productiv, and they become very key because Productiv has built in categories of tools like collaboration tools, as an example. And you can start seeing how many or little that you have in that category and then make choices on where you decide to invest or divest. And I would look at it based on the crowding and overlapping factor or the spend. And then the other bucket is measuring your value on investment. So the insights you get is really necessary to determine if you're getting the most value based on usage or engagement data, because Productive has a lot more than logged in or logged out. It really goes deeper into the features of the SaaS you're using. And then lastly, I would look at monitor and measuring who is using or accessing your SaaS. Having the ability to visualize the access to your SaaS across your entire landscape in a single platform is a huge differentiator. And it helps us protect our assets and our most valuable data.
That's and I love the way you're framing that up there, just in terms of the measurement aspect of measuring what you've got, and likewise being able to measure the gaps and the overlaps, and that really leads, I think, to a super interesting conversation. You were talking about the understand the value of the investment, and this is an area that I love the conversations we've had, and how you and your team are digging into this. It's something we again see playing out so many places, because it is literally what you just said, that the conversations, that the data driven conversations, I should say, that are enabled with the business unit's peers, or the conversation that you're able to have with the CFO from a standpoint of, we're investing in all these applications, how should we think about them? Whether it's, we've got two video conferencing systems in use, like, are we really using both? If we're going to go in a certain direction, like, how should we think about that? Or, what does collaboration actually look like? And I know, again, you and I have spoken about these questions of really trying to break down those barriers, between working groups, and helping them to collaborate more easily, helping them to get to business decisions faster. And so I just think there's so much here that, just the way you framed it up, in terms of being able to measure what you've got and understand the gaps and the overlaps, and answer these questions around, am I getting value from all of these investments that we've got, and then forming and shaping strategies, and driving from there. So I think it's just incredible, all the things that you've been doing, which leads me to ask, if there's one thing that you could tell a CIO to focus on in 2021, what would it be?
Well, if we're keeping the theme around managing SaaS at scale, I would say it's about the agile delivery and adoption of best of breed tools and technology. It's the way to go to enable your employees to do their best work and by default, like, support your company objectives. But you also need to have a way to support your governance, and that also scales. And I think to do this really well, you need to invest in technology as well and best practices. And for me, this includes technology like Okta and Productive.
That's great. Well, look, Sylvie, it's just been amazing. Thank you so much for your time, for your partnership, and just your thought leadership in the industry. It's so refreshing to hear the depth that you've thought about these things through all these years. Likewise, just Okta as an incredible partner, and kind of putting it all together is really where business value gets created. So we're grateful to the Okta Group for hosting Sylvie and I today. Matt, thank you so much, and let's open it up for Q&A.